So now, after you have your horizon line, we're gonna have one vanishing point on the left. Let's place it on the edge of the paper, on the horizon, on the left side, right here. Okay, so we have one vanishing point right here, and the other vanishing point on the right. Okay. Now, what I want you to do is grab your triangle, and you're gonna draw one line below the horizon. Let's see, about 2 inches below the horizon, and the line can be about 1 inch long. Okay, that's the line that I was telling you about. Instead of starting with a non-foreshortened shape, we're gonna start out with one line, okay? After you have your line, this is the edge of the box that is closer to the viewer. You are going to connect the top of that line with the vanishing point on the left, and the same with the bottom of that line. And then you do the same on the other side. You connect the top of that line with the vanishing point on the right, and the bottom as well. Ready for the next step? Okay. Now, using your triangle, line it up with the horizon line so that you have a perfect vertical line. And you're gonna draw another line parallel to the previous vertical line, about 1 inch, 1.5 inches. You decide. It doesn't have to be exactly like mine, as long as the line is perpendicular with the horizon, parallel with the previous line. And you're gonna draw it in between the diagonals, like that. And we do the same on the right side. In this case, I'm gonna make it a little bit farther from the original line so that I end up with a long box. The only important thing to remember is to never get too close to the vanishing points, okay? Try to stay far from the vanishing points. Questions?
Are we able to watch the videos during the quiz?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
With headphones. Okay, now let's go back to the line on the left. See this intersection right here? We are going to connect to the vanishing point on the right. should start seeing how the box is turning out. And then you go back to the line on the right, find this intersection, and these should connect with the vanishing point on the left. And you can stop once you see it intersecting with the previous line. Or you can just keep a dotted line if you want. And now you can erase what you don't need, or just lightly erase it so that you can keep it in your notes so that you remember. You can have it as dotted lines. Questions so far? No? You have a good looking box? All right. Let's do it transparent or translucent so that we know how the other lines look like. Okay, in many cases we need to know how the other lines look like if we're gonna do cast shadows, if we're gonna place objects right next to each other. Okay, so we need to know what's going on the other side. So on the bottom of this line, I need to connect with the vanishing point on the left. You can do it all the way. I already know we don't need that much. I did a little bit more. Then the bottom of the line on the left, connect with the vanishing point on the right. And you can just stop when it intersects with the previous line, or you can keep going and just erase what you don't need. I know. Is that supposed to be like a class or something?
Oh, there's an event going on in the common area.
What's the
doing
event?
some music. AICL. Art Institute's doing it. Something.
In other words, FaceTime.
Once you connect these two lines, you should start perceiving this as the bottom of the box on the inside of it. Now all we need is a vertical line. If you did everything correctly, the lines that should connect to each point, the vertical lines perpendicular with the horizon, then this line right here, if you connect this corner with this corner right here, it should be perpendicular with the horizon. Okay, if it's off by 0.5 millimeter, that's okay. If it's off by a lot, something went wrong. So that's the back edge. Questions? No? You have a question?
For the cut inside the box, I know we line up the bottom of this one to this rock line, and it takes me all the way here.
It might be a little bit longer. Oh, no, you're fine. I saw the other one. If the other one is, let me see. Yeah, that's fine, because it should intersect with this line. You may in some cases, but that's just a coincidence that the lines end up being in the same spot. Any other question, guys? No? Okay. So as you can see, you're gonna have two sets of lines, okay? As opposed to 1 point perspective, you have just one set of lines moving away from you because they all go to the single one vanishing point. So you have just one set. They're all going to the same point. In this case, you have 2 points. So you're gonna have two sets of lines. The lines that connect to the left and the lines that connect to the right, okay? So whenever you're making cuts, modifications, you have to make a decision as to where the line should connect. Should it connect to the left or should it connect to the right? So you're gonna be using your visual spatial intelligence a lot. Always picture how your drawing would look like if it existed in real life. Does it make sense? This is pretty simple, but whenever you're doing more complex objects, you might get a little bit confused. Should I connect to the left? Should I connect to the right? Think of it as if it existed in real life. How would the lines look? And that should help you to decide to which vanishing point you should connect to, okay? Let's do another one right on top of the horizon, okay? Always make sure you have a perpendicular line. I have this grid ruler, so I can just use one of the lines in there. And you can center it with this line or not, but try to work in the center. It doesn't have to be perfectly centered. Just one line about an inch. A little bit on the top, a little bit on the bottom. And then we do the same. Connect to the left, top and bottom. Connect to the right, top and bottom. And now the sides of the box. So we're gonna put one vertical line between these two diagonals. You decide, you can make a very skinny box or a bigger box. Just make sure that this vertical line is perpendicular with the horizon, parallel with the previous line and every other vertical line that you may already have. Okay, you can now erase what you don't need. Erase the horizon on the inside part and do the same on the other side. If it's made of solid material, this is how the box would look like. See the difference between the previous box? In the previous box, we're able to see the top of it. In this box, we cannot see the top, we cannot see the bottom because it's sitting on the horizon. It's right at eye level. If you grab an object that you may have, a box, your eraser or whatever, you can do this little exercise. If I'm holding the box below my eye level, I can see the top, right? if I hold it right at eye level, or I should hold it like this for 2 point, I cannot see the top or the bottom, okay? So try it with an object that you may have and see that this actually works. Now, if you hold it even higher, then you should be able to see the bottom, but not the top, because that's an object that is floating, okay? So that's how the objects look in relation to the horizon or the eye level of the viewer, because the horizon is the eye level. All right, let's now make it transparent. So from this corner, I want to draw a line that is the equivalent of this line. This line went to the right, therefore the line right here should also go to the right. And it's also pretty obvious if I go to the left, then I'm outside the box. And then on the other side, gonna connect to the right, to the left, sorry. I stop when they intersect. Erase any extra. I do the same on the top, because now the top and bottom are on the inside of the box. And then they should intersect somewhere here, and then you draw a line that is parallel with everything else, perpendicular with the horizon. And now you have your translucent box. Questions? Okay, let's do one floating. I'm gonna go a little bit faster, but it's all the same. Step number one vertical line. Make sure it's perpendicular. Gonna do it off center just because, no particular reason. Top and bottom with the vanishing point on the left. I already know I don't need such a long line, so I'm just doing a portion of it. Now my vertical line on the left, my vertical line on the right, and since this is above eye level, I need to see the bottom of the box, so I need to finish up my lines right here to complete the box. I look for intersections. There's one right here, and I connect to the vanishing point on the right. This is another intersection right here, and I connect to the vanishing point on the left, and I stop when it intersects. Erase what I don't need. And it should look something like this. Maybe different if you use different sizes, if you put your lines farther apart or closer. Now I'm gonna make it translucent. So this top intersection needs a line. This top intersection needs another line. I stop when they intersect, erase any extra, and then I just need my vertical line right here. Whoa, all of my papers fell down. And it should look like that. Questions? No? Super easy. Okay. We're going to modify them. Gonna go back to the bottom one and turn it into a house so that you can do that on the test. Just gonna make these lines lighter. I want them to disappear, but I'm just gonna make them lighter so that it doesn't get too confusing with so many lines. Okay, so I'm gonna focus on this side of the box. And I'm gonna do the X method from corner to corner. And I'm going to use the X method to draw a line. Use your triangle. Forget to switch because my ruler has a grid, but if you don't have a grid ruler, always use your triangle. And I'm gonna draw a line. Gonna go past this line. This is the center of this line. As high as you want. And then I want you to connect to the corners. And you should have a triangle. I'm gonna make this lighter. So this is a triangle that is centered within this line. The tip of the triangle is now center. I mean, you could guess and eyeball the tip, but if it existed in real life, then the triangle would be a little bit asymmetric. It wouldn't look okay. Okay, so that's why we do the X method. Find the center, go up, and now the triangle is center. We need this center along this line. You can do the X method again and then go up, or you can draw a vanishing line from here to the vanishing point on the right. It's just a guideline. And I stop when it intersects with this line, okay? Just make sure it's connected to the vanishing point on the right. And now I have it right there. And then you do your vertical line. Try to estimate the height, but we will find it with another vanishing line. So now look at the tip of the triangle. I'm gonna put my ruler right there, and then on the vanishing point, I draw a line and I stop when I intersect the previous vertical line that we just did. Okay, but we should know that this line goes to the vanishing point on the left. And erase any extra. So now this is equivalent of this. So this is the tip of the triangle in the back. All I have to do is connect with the corners. And actually, I only need that one. This one would be not visible, but you can make it dotted. So that would be the roof of a typical house, a basic house. Questions? No? All good? Okay. Now I want to put a door right here. I'm gonna still use the X that I already have. I am going to draw a vertical line. You decide where you want to put it, but I'm gonna stop when I touch the X, when it intersects with the X, and make sure it's perpendicular with the horizon. Okay, now that it intersected with the X, that horizontal line, the top of the door is a horizontal line. And like Greg said, we don't want to have any horizontal lines. So that horizontal line needs to connect to a vanishing point. Which point would you connect it to? The right or the left? The left, exactly. So I make sure my ruler's here, the intersection, and I draw a line in between the X. And I stop when it intersects with the X. And right here, I draw a vertical line. Now I have a door that is centered within the main shape. So in this case, it was pretty obvious where this line should connect to. But when in doubt, follow this rule. Lines, make it bigger. Lines that in real life are parallel. Okay, parallel. Converge, or actually share the same vanishing point. Lines that in real life are parallel share the same vanishing point. Okay, so if you think of a door, the top of the door in real life is a horizontal line that is parallel with the top of the wall, right? Just gonna make a quick drawing right here. So if you have a door in real life, the top of the wall and the top of the door are both parallel, right? Therefore, if you're drawing something foreshortened, if you're drawing something in perspective, they should share the same vanishing point. The top of the wall went to the left. Therefore, the top of the door should also go to the left. And again, this sounds pretty obvious, but whenever you're doing something more complex, it might get a little bit confusing. So this should solve your problems as to where to connect. If you don't connect it to the right, to the correct vanishing point, then your door in real life would be funky, whether you connect it to the opposite vanishing point or you just guess. So this is correct. It might look correct on your paper because it's foreshortened, but if something exists in real life and these two lines are not connected to the same vanishing point, then it means the top of the door is not parallel with the top of the wall and you have a funky looking door. Okay? So always remember this rule. Lines that in real life are parallel share the same vanishing point. Okay? So if you were to do any details inside of the door, then you would be using the same vanishing point for the top part. This is such a small shape. I could do the concentric, but it's just so small that I'm not gonna do it. But I am using the vanishing point as well as my parallel line. So let's say that's a door, whatever. On this wall, you can actually do a grid like this one for the windows. So you can do the X over and over, just like we did in 1-point perspective and we did the X method. We did it on the trapezoid shape because we were dealing with 1-point perspective. You can do the same even if you don't have your trapezoid shape. Right here it's more like a parallelogram per se, but it's the exact same method. You do the X, then the cross. So you're gonna have a vertical line perpendicular with the horizon, and the arms on the cross should connect to the corresponding vanishing point, in this case the vanishing point on the right, because if this existed in real life, this line would be parallel with the top and bottom of the wall. The top and bottom went to the right, therefore this line should also go to the right. Now that I have my 4 quadrants, I can keep going. Do an X on each of those quadrants. And then the crosses, my 2 vertical lines that become 1 line. Same on this side. And then the arms on the cross to the vanishing point on the right, right at the center of the X's. And then you can use this for whatever you want. You can add an extra door right here using these 2 squares. or like I said, you can do windows. Maybe this one right here can be an entire window on the second floor. And you would add details. So whatever detail you want to add, you want to use the vanishing point or your perpendicular lines. Okay, this is so small, so I'm just eyeballing the distance. But you can always use the concentric shape. I don't know, so let's say this is a window. This is the frame of the window, a very skinny long window for whatever reason, and it's dark inside. You can do whatever. So you would create a grid on the side wall and add your details accordingly.
It's fine. I was just shaking.
Let's say on this box, you wanna put something on top of it and you want it to be center, okay? We cannot see the top, and that's why we drew these dotted lines. So on this foreshortened shape, you can actually do the X. And then when it intersects right here, this is the center, and you can use it for whatever you want. Maybe a flag. Okay, we wouldn't see the bottom of the flag, but then you draw your flag right there. I don't know. Or maybe on the inside part, maybe you can do a chandelier or a lamp or whatever you want hanging right from the top, whatever you want to do. You would use the X method in a similar way as you did with the boxes in 1-point perspective. Same story. You use the X. Questions so far? Okay. And let's see what else. Let's make a cut on this one. And then we'll do some shading. I'm gonna use the X method. And then I'm gonna place some vertical lines, making sure they're perpendicular. I stop at this intersection. Draw a line that converges onto the vanishing point on the left. Stop at this intersection. Draw a vertical line. Now I have these new intersections right here. I'm gonna draw lines under, and they should go to the vanishing point on the right. I'm gonna erase this because I'm creating a cut. So now I need 2 extra lines. I need 1 line right here. And right at this intersection, this now becomes like a corner, like on the inside part. I'm gonna draw a vertical line. There. And depending on how you drew your box, you may or may not see a line right here, which would be the equivalent of this line right here. Okay, I can make the dotted lines so that you can see what I'm talking about. In my case, just a tiny bit is showing. Like that. So just like we have this rectangle here, we should have it right here. So this tiny line may or may not show depending on how you did it. And then again, as I mentioned earlier, the shading should help you achieve volume. Okay, so you can refer to the examples on your warm-up packet. Always think of where your light source is. In this case, I want my light source coming from the left. Okay, therefore the inside part will be my darkest. Since I made a cut, this will be the inside. So I'm gonna shade all these to give it the appropriate volume. And this tone would be still fairly dark, but a little bit lighter than the top. I'm just doing a quick shading. I'm not using the shading pencils, but I want you to see how you can achieve volume through the use of shading. You would obviously erase all those guidelines and all these big dots if this was an actual drawing. And this one. And then this one just slightly darker than this one. But again, if at least you have 3 tones in each of your objects, that should be good. And we'll keep practicing. But the shading part, you should focus more on the shading when you do observational drawing. I don't know if you have already taken it or you will take it next time. So yeah, that's why I'm not so strict on the shading part in this course. We're focusing more on the lines, on linear perspective. But the shading it's important as well in terms of perspective. So that should help more with the volume. Questions? Okay. We're gonna get started with the next project, the one that is due in 2 weeks, but I want you to start it here, because when you're doing something independently, that's when all the questions start to pop in your head. Let me just pause the video or end the video.